When it comes to SEO and creating content, some people think that it's pretty easy to start writing some articles with some keywords that are going to match what people are looking for. But there's a lot more to it than that. And I'm so glad that Brendan Hufford came on to explain all this to me, because it made it more clear in my head. And he walked through some specific things that people are doing wrong when it comes to content SEO, and then exactly what you need to do right. And man, he made it sound like if you just follow this, it's going to work. He's seen it work. He's had great results with it. So definitely check this out. Make sure you're not doing the wrong things. Make sure you start doing the right things.
Welcome to SaaS-Story in the Making, the podcast that features the people who made the software world what it is today and the leaders who are shaping the future of technology. Here's your host, Matt Wolach.
And welcome to SaaS-Story in the Making. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks for watching if you're on YouTube. Thanks for listening if you're on your podcast. I am Matt Wolach. I'm your host, and we are here to help you scale and grow your software company. I'm super excited to have my special guest who's going to help us do that. Please welcome Brendan Hufford with me. Brendan, how you doing?
I'm great, Matt. Thanks so much for having me. You know, can I tell you something? I never told you this. I really like your logo. I think it's super smart. The MW.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've always kind of wondered, I'm like, does that even matter or whatever? But thank you. I'm glad you like it.
It's smart. It's concise. It's not confusing, but it is what it is. I like stuff like that.
Oh, well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are not watching on YouTube and don't see the logo, go watch it. Go check it out so you can see it. No, that's awesome. I appreciate the feedback, Brendan. And let me make sure that everybody knows who you are, because everybody out there, this guy is the man. I've seen him do his thing in the past. He's really, really awesome. And I want to let you know how he sets everything up. First of all, he's the founder at Growth Sprints. And really, basically, what he wants to do is help people get results from this 4-part SaaS growth framework that he has. And he does a great job of this. He helps scale companies. Really, what he does is he helps SaaS companies go from 10 million to 100 million ARR. And he does it using a SaaS growth sprint framework where basically it helps them increase revenue from Google through short, focused marketing sprints. He absolutely knows his stuff. He went through this with my membership group, my SaaS founders group, and they were blown away by what they learned from him. So absolutely listen to him here. Brendan, once again, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Matt. I'm excited to share some unique stuff today and really make a good use of everybody's time. I'm excited to have their attention as well. So if you're listening, watching, really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Cool. So tell me, Brendan, what's going on with you lately and what's coming up?
So what's going on lately is I'm really heads down focused on growing growth sprints. But what's most exciting about that is it's an agency consultancy. It's super small, and I love that. That's the kind of business I want to run. I don't want to manage a big team or anything like that. What I'm excited about is I've grown a lot just through my network and through LinkedIn and, making friends with people like yourself. But I'm excited to make things again. I haven't been making things for a while, and that's what really drove me nuts as a leader in companies that I worked at in the past, agencies I worked at in the past. So I'm excited to make things again, launching a podcast, starting our newsletter, and I'm excited to experiment with this, just doing more vertical video. By vertical, like I call it like swipe video, TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. I want to be at the front of that. It's media I consume a lot, and I'm excited to do more of that. But that's more on the personal side. On the other side of it is just supporting more companies. What's been really interesting is, I don't know if you've experienced this or not. I think that what we're seeing in the tech world is always usually a weird bubble compared to the rest of our lives, right? Like in March of 2020, when everybody was freaking out and restaurants are shutting down and people's lives are being turned to, just completely overturned. The agency I was at was seeing like 12% client churn, and like all the other companies were growing and exploding because the need for software went way up, right? And I think we're seeing that now, where it's a lot of companies are made big bets and we're maybe running not as lean as they would like to, so they're doing a lot of big layoffs, but it doesn't mean that we're necessarily seeing the downturn. Like my personal pipeline and growth that I'm seeing in my clients, especially those that are B2B, like we're seeing a lot of growth, and that's exciting too.
Yeah, that's so cool. I've seen a lot of growth as well, and I know you're doing a lot with that. But first, I want to ask you, what gave you the idea to start Growth Sprints, and who is it for?
So I'm the kind of guy that is a total psychopath. And like, I don't listen to podcasts. I go make I start 3 podcasts, right? I'm the kind of guy that like when I didn't, there was no like great community for in-house marketers. When I was in-house, I was like, I'm going to make this. And I started a community within 2 weeks of being in-house at a company, right?
I love it.
The same thing with growth sprints. Like I've been at agencies. I've done the 6 to 12 month retainer thing. That's really common in the SEO and content world, where it's just, you just try to retain people forever on these long, like, let's get married kind of contracts. And just like realize, you know, it was really, I was on a train ride home one day and I had just like lost the agency I was at. We just got lost 2 clients and I was really torn up about it. I was like, look, like this sucks. And I realized in that moment that every client would fire me, because if my goal is to retain you forever, this is the only way it ends, is with you breaking up with me, right?
Yep.
And that sucked. And I was like, there's got to be a better way, because that sucks for them. It sucks for me. There's got to be a better way to do this. And I was like, well, we do in the SEO and content world, we do most of our work in the first 3 months. And then it's honestly like a lot of like hand wavy, look busy, try to like find other work to do. And then, you know, at the end, when you try to renew them, it's like, well, they're like, well, what are we paying you for? I'm like, well, that work that I did half a year ago. And I was like, why don't I just work with people for 2 or 3 months? We, you know, end the engagement. We've done great work. I give them a 6 to 12 month strategy to run with. And at the end, we just double overhand high five and we're good. And we're still friends. We still like each other. We're still happy to work together again in the future. We've done great work that we're both really, you know, or we're all really proud of. So it's really what pushed me to do that is, and I also just, it's the way I like to work, right? I like to keep things small and not a lot of clients. It's very, feels like a Jerry Maguire type of agency, like just like smaller, that. more, what a throwback kind of reference there. People are probably like, what's that? But well, like just smaller, more attention, huh?
I'm all in on the Jerry Maguire reference.
Cool. Great. We're the same speed.
So that's cool. I love it. And I think it's a great idea. And I'm sure you're providing a lot of value. But for those companies, why is it so important for early stage growing companies to make sure they're focusing on marketing and doing it the right way?
So I think it's a really important thing and nuance. A lot of people that work in SEO and content, they get myopically focused on like, we have the best channel, we're the best because we do this. And they then transpose that onto marketing. You know, well, we should do SEO. It's better to do it early. It can take a while. So like you should start early. A lot of companies don't have, like, you either don't have time or you don't have money. And either way, like, you need customers. And I tell a lot of early stage and just early companies, you know, I turn down a lot of like leads transparently because you should do other stuff. You shouldn't, like, SEO and content is not your play right now. You still have a lot to figure out in your product, other pieces like that. So I was just talking to somebody this morning and I was like, you know, what's your net revenue retention, right? What's your churn right now? Answer those questions. And like, we can tell whether we should even talk about pursuing this, or you should talk about pursuing it generally. The one thing companies shouldn't do is completely ignore marketing. I think marketing makes a lot of other things easier, whether you're, you know, have like a product-led motion or a sales-led motion or both. Marketing makes both of those a lot easier and a lot better. So I don't think you can neglect marketing. And when I think about a lot of that, like, what does marketing include here? What am I talking about? I'm talking about positioning, I'm talking about messaging, I'm talking about storytelling, all the things you did. Like, if you raised money to convince people to give you the money, go do that publicly. That's marketing, right? Like, you already have a lot of these skills. People think that it's like this separate function. They don't know how to do it. It's tactical, right? A lot of it isn't. It's just building an audience of your ideal customer and then, you know, sharing that with them, what you do and why you do it. I think that's the start. And I know that people are like, oh, that's oversimplifying it. I've just seen too many companies try to invest too much and spend too fast before they figured out who they were. And I think that in the, you know, I'm not super in like the VC world, but I think that's a big risk, is being pushed to go too fast and too hard before you can even figure out, like, those things like, there's some element of taking time. Would you agree, or am I crazy?
No, I love it. I absolutely agree. I think that you got to be smart in how you do it. And you got to make sure you're doing it at the right pace. Obviously, we all want to grow quickly and you've got to get there. But if you're doing the wrong things at the wrong time, it's not going to work. Yeah, I absolutely love what you said earlier, that, you know, sometimes people just aren't the right fit. They don't need to do that thing. And so speaking to that point, the wrong thing at the wrong time. I've seen that so many times. People who come to me and say, "Hey, Matt, we need help." I said, "What are you doing now?" And it's absolutely not what they should be doing at that moment, at that time in their journey. And I totally agree. If SEO is not a fit, and first of all, I hope everybody out there took what you said earlier to heart. If you encounter somebody who is not a fit for what you are doing and what you can do to help them, do not try and force a close. Do not try and force sell them. And it's so hard, especially in the early days when you really need sales, you need sales, you need sales. You try to force people into it. It doesn't work. Either the sales process is going to take a long time and they never close because they eventually realize it's not going to work, or they do close and they get in and realize it's not right for them and they hate you and they tell everybody else that you're terrible. So that's not good. I have had a lot of referrals come to me when I told somebody, "Hey, it's not going to work. It's not a fit. Here's why I can't help you," and yada, yada, yada. And they believed me and trusted me more because they realized I'm not just there trying to sell somebody. I'm trying to actually help people. And so they actually went out and told other people, "Hey, you need to go here, check it out. It wasn't a fit for me, but I think for you it'd be great." And I bet you have as well, but I've generated a lot of referrals from that, just from turning down the wrong people who then later sent me the right people. I think it's so important. I'm glad you brought that up.
It's so scary to do in the moment, though, just to be like, "Hey, this isn't it. Like, you're great. Love you. Love your product. Love what you're working on." And if you're on like the SaaS side of things, then, whatever your customers, you can still be like, "Look, love you. You're doing a great thing. We would love to work together. We're just not a fit for whatever reason." I can't tell you. I also have been really humbled in maybe the last 4 or 5 years from this idea of like, I can't believe you're not doing X. X is required for success. And then it's like, you talk to these founders who are like, "Oh yeah, we're at $17 million ARR. We got a team of people. We've just been building through partnerships. We don't really do sales, like any sort of outbound, or we don't do any sort of marketing." And you see enough of those and you're like, "What I do is so silly. Like, you don't need it. You don't like it makes a lot, like I said, it makes a lot of other things easier, but like, I live in the real world and I've just seen enough," right? Like, I have this, I don't want to say the scars to prove it, but like, I've just seen some stuff and it's just like, oh, there are a lot of ways to play this game. And being humble in that and like understanding that, I think it's taken away a lot of I'm still loud and brash, but hopefully a little less arrogant about how important or unimportant marketing is.
Yeah, I would agree. And so let's get to it. So I want to understand, if you are a company and you are in the right place and content and SEO is a great play for you, you start doing it. What are some of the mistakes that these companies are making once they try to do this? They try to implement that strategy. What are some of the things that they're not doing right?
So I'll give you an honest example right now. I'm watching this company. I had talked to them a while back, and I just do the like it's a game. I don't know if everybody does this. You keep an eye on your L's, right, on your losses, and you're just like, I wonder how they're doing now. And I looked at this company, and I didn't end up working with them. And they're a sales tech company. And when I looked at their blog, they're publishing like a blog a day. And their SEO strategy that they decided to go with is content on like, what is a KPI, 5 sales call scripts, what is the ROI of something, like just this. It looks like they took an SEO tool, they just put sales in there and then did a keyword export. And then they sorted one column for like keyword difficulty. So it was the easiest ones on top, and then which ones had the most volume, and like just went with it. Because when you look at their site and it's like, what are the most trafficked pages? It's all just this high level fluff type of thing. Another example is I'll own it. It's before my time, but it's a company I used to work at, Active Campaign, huge company, 150 million plus ARR. And their top blogs are different. Their top like keywords and topics are like types of stakeholders, what is an SDR, company slogans, and one other, like they're an email marketing company, marketing automation. Those things have nothing to do with the company. And the biggest mistake is not doing that. The biggest mistake is doing it and then getting addicted to it. Because eventually people aren't going to care about company slogans like they did 7 years ago. And the traffic's going to go down. It's going to go down by a lot. And then you are going to panic your entire marketing team and have this huge and I'm not speaking hypothetically here. You're going to have a 6-month fire drill about how do we get this traffic back? We got to get traffic back, And it's like, this is okay. Like this is such a non-issue, and 100 people are all freaking out about it at this company. Things like that are where it gets really damaging, where it's like, we're going to lose 3 or 4 marketers on your team because they're just exhausted by this nonsense. That's the bigger risk. It's not doing it now. Like the wasting the time and the money now that sucks, but it's even worse down the road when you can't come back, right? You can't just be like, we should just delete these 10 blog posts and just eat it, right?
Wow.
That's a bigger risk to me. But I do think on the front end, just trying to do SEO like it's 2006 again. Like we can just type in some random keywords, come in, and then run the HubSpot playbook. Like everybody's just going to discover it. It's just that's not my experience. That's not how it works anymore.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing this up, because if I was to go implement a content strategy, that what you said is what I probably would do. I'm like, oh, well, let's just run the keywords.
Really cool. That's exactly.
Yeah, let's just do that. So I'm glad you said that, because I would be one of those people doing the wrong thing. So tell me, what's the right thing? What should people be focused on if they're wanting to implement a strategy like this?
Yeah. So I think a couple different pieces. Like the framework I operate under there is a piece of that. I call it like content-led SEO, right? We look up keywords, we kind of work from the SEO tools and then go forward, right? We look at keywords, we plan things out, build out content clusters, all of that sort of stuff. But we can skip that. There's a million people that know about that stuff. They talk about it. It works and it's great. The other pieces are two parts. So, well, maybe 3. One is revenue-focused content, where we do 2 different things. Number 1, we kind of fulfill a content strategy that has nothing to do with keyword research. It's just talking to the people. In my case, either, if you're working directly in a company, talk to your customers. If you are not directly in a company like me, you can still talk to the people that talk to customers. Or if you're like at a big company and it's hard to get a hold of customers directly, I call it the 3S strategy: sales, success, and support. Talk to your sales team, your success team, and your support team. You will understand very quickly, if you ask the right questions, what people need to know to either make a buying decision or be retained as a customer, things like that. You'll figure that stuff out really fast. You'll see like a through line that guides your content strategy. We know that if something's coming up unprompted on 3 or more calls, we don't need the SEO tools to tell us people are Googling that. The SEO tools are 6 to 12 months behind as it is, right? At best. They're fine because it compares apples to apples, but it's old. It's old data. They're buying clickstream data from antivirus software. Like, it's when you get into those tools and like how they actually get the data, it's a little wacky.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. Like everybody, and it's very hand wavy. Like, where are you getting this search volume from? Like, how do you really know? Google's not giving it to you. How do you know this stuff? And they're like, well, it's clickstream. What does that mean? And then you dig and you're like, oh, the Kaspersky antivirus software tracked everybody's clicks on their computers and then sold the click data to all these other people. Like, oh, okay, cool. Now we got it. We got, we're starting to understand how the internet world works. Sorry, I'm not trying to be like on my soapbox about it or tinfoil hat. But like,
no, I didn't know.
You understand where that comes from. You're like, oh, okay, maybe talking to customers is a way better way to think about this. So talking to customers, talking to the people who talk to customers, and then working backwards. If we can back into keywords, if we can back into SEO, great. We also know that's going to perform over time. We're ahead of the curve, right? We figure out things before people, before the SEO tools say that they exist, and therefore we're way ahead of our competitors. That's a lot of like how I think about it. I also have like a framework of talk about your problem, talk about the first roadblock to that problem, give them a template to solve it, tell them about a customer who solved it, and then give them like a high level overview kind of roundup post about it. And if you work through your SaaS product, all the different things that your product does, all of its, if you have like feature pages or whatever, imagine for every feature page, if you were to offer your software as a service, literally, I'm going to get rid of the software. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to turn my software into a service that I do for you. What would you do for that person or that customer? All of a sudden, now you have these bullet points of the main parts of your software and what they actually do. It's a weird thing, man. It's a weird thing that like sometimes we have a hard time conceptualizing what our software does for people. But when I say turn it into a service, like you got to go to their office and do this for them, or you got to go to their home and like do the thing, all of a sudden it's crystal clear. And it's like, oh, I would do this, I would do this, and I would do this. And all of a sudden, when you make it being about what I have to do versus what my software does, or, you know, my SaaS product, all of a sudden we have a really good, like 4 or 5 part framework. Then for each one of those, like I said, just a post about what the problem is, the roadblock, and just work through those pieces. And all of a sudden we have a really good, like that's good demand gen stuff for social. That's exactly what your founder should be. Everybody who has an equity stake in the company should be posting that stuff on social.
Absolutely.
That's what, like, you know, 30 posts, right? Like you're good for the next month, right? And you even break those out a little bit. We're good. Then backing that into SEO, and all of a sudden you start to see like, all right, cool. There's a much better pattern. There's a much better way to do this. The other piece is just around authority building. We know backlinks matter for SEO. The game is that everybody's either begging for them, sending out, I don't know if you get those. I feel like everybody with a website gets those emails of like, hey, you wrote this article about this thing. I also wrote about that thing. Will you link to my article and your article about this? So you can beg for them, or you can buy them. People act like Google. Google's not a good company. Maybe I just like wake up and choose violence when it comes to SEO, but like Google's not a good company. I don't care what their guidelines say. I do what helps and humans, not what helps Google. So, you know, most people are buying backlinks, paying for them. I'm agnostic on that. I just like to use a more passive approach, right? Like figure out what are the things in your industry that people are looking to link to, meaning like they're a journalist, they're a writer. When they write about this topic, what do they want to link to? Typically, these are articles about stats, trends, stuff like that. I have a whole playbook of kind of things that I run through and look for. But create that content, and then when people are looking for that stuff, they see you show up in the search engine, they cite you, you get more links, and eventually you build this like really strong flywheel of authority where you're the incumbent really, really quickly. Everybody else in your industry looks at you and like, well, we can't do SEO because we're never going to beat that. Like their website's a monster, you know? And that's the feeling you want. Cool.
Okay, a lot of things to unpack on what you just said right there, Brendan. I love how you talked about a lot of different things. But first, one of the things that hit me really hard was don't just search for what people are actually out there Googling and looking for. Understand that you need to write to what's actually happening and talk to your customers and hear their prospect, hear your prospects, hear your customers, hear what they're actually looking for and asking for. And what got me was, how many times does your marketing team or your copywriting team go and talk to your sales team and ask them, hey, what are people saying? Like rarely. That never, like I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do that. It's so genius. It should be happening. They should be hearing, hey, what are people talking about? What is the conversation right now? And what have you been asked that was kind of unique? I think that would be incredible. And then you can go write articles on that. And nobody's doing that. But if you could start doing that, you'd be hitting right at what's happening right now. I think that's fantastic. You also went through a 5-step framework of, you know, tell them about the problem, explain the problem. Can you go through what those 5 things are real quick?
Yeah.
I have a point on
Apologize. I went through it really quickly. The second one is where the magic is. So the first one is what the problem is, right? Tell them kind of how you solve the problem, right? Like the same way I'm doing it right now, right? The problem is we need more traffic. We want to do content and SEO. And I'm like, cool, there's a 4-step framework or 5-step framework for that. Just give them generally what the framework is of how you think this thing that your tool is solving, you know, your platform is solving. Give them the general bullet points, right? So we'll give them those general bullet points. The second is solve the roadblock to that. Like when they do that, what happens next? This is where we get into like, okay, they really get me. They really understand what's going to happen, right? Like I can name the 5 or 6 roadblocks that are going to come up if you try to implement any sort of content or SEO or any sort of that strategy within your company. I know how that goes. I've seen it enough. I have enough experience. I know what those roadblocks you're going to run into within your company are. The same thing you just said is like, I'll give you an example. Like, yeah, we want to, like, nobody has to talk to the sales team. So somebody listening to this is going to go, awesome, I'm going to go talk to the sales team. I've tried that. They don't want to talk to you because you've been sending them too many crappy leads for too long. They're like, why would I waste 60 minutes of my day instead of selling? I got to fill out Salesforce. Like, I don't have time to talk to you. That type of stuff. That's the roadblock you're going to run into. So let's talk about how to get buy-in with your sales team so you can talk to them and build that trust to then get the ideas for content, right? Like, again, like I'm going to help you with the roadblock. Afterwards, we get a template, right? So let's give them an actual template of like, here's what to do. It could be, depending on your industry, this is a script, this is a deck, this is a Google sheet, this is it could just be bullet points. One thing I love to do that we talked to your community about was like, give them a framework to explain SEO to their board or to their CEO if they are the CEO or founder, right? That's a great framework. All of a sudden they're like, wow, that was like, I hadn't thought of that. And now that I do, like, yes, it would have been an issue, right? Trying to explain why we were going to do this. Give a customer case study, number 4. So main issue, give them a customer story, customer case study, whatever way you describe that within your company. Like interesting where you do an analysis on some industry, dive on Airbnb and how they worked with Airbnb. But I got a designer. They had a designer on the growth team who was like, and I said, hey man, chart out of some SEO tool. I said, there are 3 big spikes here. And it would and kind of level. And he looked at it and he looked at the dates and he goes, oh, those are the 3 times the growth team focused on SEO. We would focus again, and then like he was just reload in on SEO and then we would just let it coast. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So if I write about that, I can tell that story. That's a high level, interesting like roundup or what we want to call it. But I didn't do any of that work. It's just interesting and helpful for my ideal clients, or the same thing true for anybody's customers.
Yeah, absolutely true. I love the framework. I think it's so important and so helpful, but I think that same framework can apply elsewhere within your entire marketing funnel. I mean, you can do it for a landing page. You can do it within a sales call. Explain the problem, explain the roadblocks, and then how other people have solved it and what you're doing. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's a nurture sequence, right? You're doing any sort of outbound. I just wrote your next 5 emails for you. And those are really great value-packed emails. You can do it, my friend for 0 content. We all like, all right, did they click the email? Did they come back to the website? Are they engaged? Like, sometimes just put all the good stuff in the email and I'm doing a lot in email. Like, it's a great tactic. That's 5 emails. That's your next 5 blog posts. That's your next 5 social posts. That's your next, like, all of the, it's the 5 things that go on a landing page to be like, hey, we're going to ungate this content, or, we're going to gate this content. But the reason we're gating it is because we're going to send you these 5 things over the next day. Make it worth opting in for, right? Like, a lot of the stuff we gate is like, here's my crappy PDF, like we call it an ebook. It's not an ebook. It's not even like, it's just a Google Doc you export it as a PDF, right? I've done it. It's fine. But like that sort of stuff. And it's like, all right, cool. Like, let's make it an experience worth opting in for if we are going to gate something. And great. Now I just gave you your next like gated content idea, right? I absolutely agree. It's all across marketing, can be used in sales, can be used in a bunch of different areas.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I love this. I could talk to you for a long, long time on this, Brendan. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So I want to make sure everybody can figure out where to find you. So where are the best places for them to find you and learn more?
Yeah, so definitely LinkedIn is where I share all my best stuff. That's where I'm sharing a ton right now. As we mentioned at the top of the show, there's other things I'm doing, right? I'm experimenting with all sorts of different things and I'm excited about it, but the LinkedIn is the hub. That's where you can find everything else. Or you can Google growth sprints. I won't pretend it's because I'm good at SEO, but if you Google either Brendan Hufford or growth sprints, it's result for both of those things. It's kind of a joke. I don't do any SEO for growth sprint, only like a 2 or 3 page website, which is a whole lesson in sales and conversion in itself. But yeah, that's the best way to get a hold of me. And I'd love to chat. Like, if somebody, if you heard me today and it was like, hey, this resonated with me, this was valuable or interesting, connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, just be like, hey, I thought this was really interesting. I just want to know, like, between you and I, Matt, and like everybody listening, I just want to know what to talk more about, right? Like, how can I be more helpful to people? So if it was like, hey, you said this, but then I had like, tell me that. I would love to know that.
I love that. And I can tell you he's very open. He's awesome. So definitely go find him on LinkedIn and connect. We will put that link into the show notes as well as in the discussion or in the description down below in YouTube. But Brendan, thanks so much for coming on and sharing everything with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Matt. It's definitely an honor to be able to connect with somebody like yourself and everybody else listening. I appreciate you as well.
All right, perfect. Everybody out there, thank you so much for coming. Make sure you're subscribed to the show. You don't want to miss out on any other awesome creators and innovators like Brendan coming up. So hit that subscribe button right now. That way you'll be notified of any new episodes. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time. Take care.